Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 16. It is called The Mark of Gideon. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. What else uses the word Gideon? I feel like...
Legends Tomorrow.
Yes. There's something else.
Because I almost made the joke about it last episode when we found out the title for this one.
What about Gideon Malik? What's Gideon Malik from?
Shield?
That sounds right.
Sounds
right.
familiar. And then, of course, you got Gideon Falls, the comic. A lot of Gideons these days.
Aye, Shield. That's a lot of Gideons going around. Gideon's all over
There
the place.
is.
That's, of course, is not today, though. This is 1968 or whatever it is. So, this is
Ahead of its time.
Old Gideon, yes. So this episode is about a planet. So the Enterprise has come at this planet. It's not really had much relations with the Federation, and they're very private. They don't allow visitors, but they've allowed one. They're going to let Kirk down to talk to him. Just Kirk, no one else. And they show up, and it's a little bit okay, all right, a little bit shady. Well, not shady, but you don't like your captain go down without any security or backup or anything like that. But he goes down, but something weird happens. And he actually ends up in the Enterprise again. Like, he beams to an Enterprise, except this Enterprise is empty, and he's on his own, except one.
And he's lost a little bit of time.
And he's lost 7 minutes, I think was the exact number. He's lost 7 minutes of his time, and he's got an injury on his arm. And then he runs into one other person, which is a woman, which I actually kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. I was like, oh, of course, a woman. Yes, okay, Kirk's a ladies' man. He's going to wear. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Meanwhile, Spock and Korlik, well, where did the captain go? Because, the ambassador from Gideon, calls back up, says, hey, where's the captain coming? He's not here. And oh, that's odd. Can we come down and search? No, that's against our rules. We agreed for one person. And this will only cause more trouble. So Spock's trying to get through to them, whilst trying to test their own equipment and find out what happened to the captain. And that's kind of the two plot lines of the episode as they go along. So, I'll ask the question. Cara, did you enjoy The Mark of Gideon?
I didn't hate it.
Nor did I.
There's a lot of really good ideas in there.
There's a trend this part of the season. No, there's some fun stuff. I like the mystery of, wait, he's in the Enterprise, but it's empty. Did he go into a different dimension? That's your first thought, right?
Yeah.
Watching a sci-fi show, it's like,
definitely.
oh, he's entered an alternate dimension where no one else is there. It's just whatever. And then the obvious solution is that the Gideon, chancellors. That's the word I'm looking for. The chancellors.
Councillors was the right word.
Was the right word? Okay, I try to say chancellor though. I couldn't remember the title exactly, but the obvious answer is that they're just lying, and this is something they've done, and that turns out to be the case. And there's actually some really good visuals. There's the first moment that you see the idea that they're not just out in space in another ship, where it's on the actual the viewfinder on the bridge. You see all these creepy faces watching and observing Kirk and the girl, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of a cool visual.
I think the problem, at least is maybe my biggest problem in the episode, is I can't understand why the people on Gideon tell the Enterprise that Kirk hasn't arrived.
Yeah, I don't get that either. It's weird. Because if they had never told Spock and Co. that the captain never arrived...
They'd never be going, oh, we're going to come down there.
Yeah. I mean, sure, eventually they might think it's suspicious that they hadn't heard back from the captain, but they'd have some time.
Yeah. And they might not think it's that suspicious. He's going down to do a meeting. He might just not contact while the meeting's on. Might be seen as rude.
Oh, sure, but eventually, there'll be a point where it's, oh, this is weird.
Eventually, yeah.
It's been 4 hours and the captain's not called back up yet.
Yeah.
Or it's been 12 hours if they expect the meeting to go on a long time, whatever. But eventually,
but eventually, but not within the time frame of this episode.
No. He's gone for a couple of hours this episode, if that. So,
yeah.
It's weird. I don't know why they tell Spock. I don't know why they call him up and say, hey, he's not here. It's really just there to misdirect us, the audience, into thinking they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and that's a real problem for me.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah, it is.
It's just there purely to try and trick us. It doesn't actually make sense that they call up.
It's there because they were like, well, we need the rest of the crew to do something for the episode.
Yeah, yeah. And what it is isn't too bad. Like Spock, like encountering this brick wall of this council, these rules. Like, no, you can't come down here, and constantly try to talk him into like, no, just let me come down and search for the captain, and you know,
Yeah, and lots of being very precise with the wordplay.
yeah, he's always trying to like worm his way out of things, and eventually like, Scotty and Sulu or Chekhov or whoever on the bridge eventually get so frustrated because they want to try and help find the captain that they start just butting in and like just saying, "Oh, he's talking bullshit." My equipment's working fine. Scotty especially, we know he gets quite defensive of the Enterprise. He's very proud of her, and the council just like, "Oh, I didn't quite understand what you said there, Mr. Spock. Could you repeat that?" He's very pompous. He's ignoring the existence of the other people. How dare you speak to me? He doesn't quite say that, but that's kind of how he acts on. And having Spock go up against that wall, and Spock actually making the choice to just disobey Starfleet and say, "No, what? I'm going down." Starfleet are telling us not to. We have to obey the rules. I'm going down.
Yeah.
He doesn't let McCoy do it though. McCoy wants to come with him. He's like, "No. I'm breaking this rule. I can only do that for myself. I'm not ordering you to break the rule." He's like, "You don't have to order me to break the rule. I'm going to break the rule." Because he's McCoy.
Yeah.
He's willing to do it.
Of course, yeah.
But Spock goes down, and Spock. I mean, actually, it almost makes Kirk feel like a bit more like an idiot, because it's not like it's a parallel dimension where it's an exact like duplication of the Enterprise. It is something they've built. It's just a physical place they've built. And Spock quite quickly sort of looking around, and he seems to just kind of get that there's something fishy about it, like immediately. Whereas Kirk,
to be fair, I think he's kind of expecting something though, because
okay.
I think it is an exact replica, which is why they specifically requested the captain of the Enterprise, because for whatever reason they had the Enterprise specs on hand.
Yeah, that's a good question. How did they have the information to create an exact replica to the point where a captain wouldn't recognise that something, even if it's minute, would be out of place?
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that one.
Something like the colour of my chair's wrong. Oh wait, what's going on? Something's fishy.
I mean, I don't know. This is where the episode falls apart, when you try and scrutinise it and you hold it up to judgment. It becomes flimsy.
It does become very flimsy. A lot of things could give this away. And the woman claims to not know why she's here or where she's from. She claims to have never heard of Gideon, but she of course turns out to be the daughter of the main counsellor. And it turns out the reason why they've done this is because the population in Gideon is spiraling out of control because they don't have disease. They're in such good health, and the lifespan is so long that they've become overcrowded to an extent where the reason why they've got Kirk there is because he had meningitis when he was younger, and he got cured, he was fine, but they want his blood so they can duplicate the virus and basically infect themselves and make themselves killable. I mean, so they'll start dying out.
Yeah, and these are like where I like a lot of the ideas here. Is saying, okay, overpopulation of the planet and the resources, and Kirk just doesn't get it. And the council's like, no, this is a horror. We can't deal with this. We can't sustain this.
Yeah, and it's actually funny, like a show from this era, because it kind of tackles birth control during this conversation, where he's like, people keep giving birth, and Kirk flat out says, "Oh, there's ways to, there's contraception. There's ways you can stop the birth control from spiraling out of control." And the dude basically responds with, "Oh no, we believe life is precious. We would never hinder that." And like, you're overpopulating. this is the direct thing that will help you, as opposed to just trying to kill the people who already exist, which seems a bit of an extreme. I don't know. I was getting some very almost unintentional satire of modern arguments for birth control or against birth control. And I don't know how intentional that was, or if he's meant to come across as a bit more reasonable than he is. But all I could hear was, "Oh no, we should do this," even though that would clearly solve the problem. But
I think it's I think it is intentional because, as a rule, we're on Kirk's side.
Yes.
And Kirk's the one suggesting this, and they go, "No, that's stupid." So we're supposed to be with Kirk on that.
Absolutely, and I think I actually think it's ballsy. I think it's the most ballsy thing. Well, maybe not the most ballsy, but it's definitely up there in terms, and on the level of ballsiness, is up there in terms of the things that Star Trek tackled for its time period, right?
Yeah.
Like I was genuinely surprised when they started talking about contraception. I was like, "Wait, what? We're talking about that on Star Trek '66? What now?" I was surprised.
It's a fair point.
Because it's not like, I mean, I don't even think the topic of casual sex has ever came up. Like,
No,
sure,
I mean,
never said it
I
doesn't
don't think
happen, but
by this point of the show we're in what 69,
I think so. Yeah, give or
so
take.
we're deep in the the free love hippie stuff.
True. Yeah,
So I'm wondering if maybe it's a response.
yeah. It's a response to the critiques of that. It's like, yeah, teach safe sex rather than telling everyone not to have sex at all. Which
Yeah,
every time someone tries to do it, it never works because let's face it, sex is just too appealing to just about everyone on the planet.
pretty much. Yeah,
So they don't work. But yeah, so Kirk actually makes that argument. Um, yeah, the daughter plot kind of fell apart for me though. I like because
yeah.
she's I was hoping he'd fall in love with me and he'd want to stay and help us work with the planet and like
Because Kirk, basically.
yeah and like no, why would he do that? And we've had Kirk like basically have women fall for him like so easily so many times now that now I just kind of roll my eyes and I'm not interested. Like
Just sick of it. Yeah.
yeah. It's just a trope. It's been a trope for a while. I mean, argue it's just a trope in general, really. But with Star Trek specifically, it's a very particular trope for Kirk. And at this point, it's like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, we're done. And it'd be one thing if it was playful. Like it'd be one thing if it was like, oh, he meets someone who kind of like spars with him verbally a little bit, and he always ends up having sex. But it's always like treated like that. But it's always no. I'm in love with Kirk. Kirk is the manliest man of the men, and I want him to stay and marry me and whatever. And I mean, I'll give that one episode credit. It wasn't a great episode, but that one where he actually got married and then the wife got killed, that was actually kind of a unique way of dealing with it.
It was different. Yeah.
It was
Can't
different.
argue that.
But yeah, so no, odd. Also, I thought the way it ended was really weird because
Yeah.
they don't actually like solve the dispute with the counselors. Like basically at this point, Kirk is arguing that no, you don't let your daughter die. Like this is not worth it. You can still solve this problem. She doesn't have to die. Even if you cure her, much like me, you'll still have the blood from her to then do what you want with it, and
Yeah.
whatever. And
His argument in response is no, the people need to see someone young die to prove it's possible.
which is bizarre in and of itself, but. Spock, at this point he's been going through the fake Enterprise, and he ends up getting to some of the guards who are basically in like. I mean, it's not like it's cloth, but it's just very gimpy looking. I thought they're all in black with the mask or the head.
It was far from the worst.
Yeah.
It was inoffensive.
It was inoffensive, but it was like sort of. I mean, I'll give them credit. They went cheap, but they picked cheap that at least didn't look tacky.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Spock does his old grip, and he gets to Kirk. And the episode literally just so Spock gets to him, and they're like, "Oh, 3 to beam up," and they grab the girl against the father's will, take her to the Enterprise. McCoy cures her, gets her up on her feet.
Let's not forget, Spock gives the counselor a stern talking to. He's like, "Stop arguing with me. I got enough problems to deal with from upper management already."
He does actually. He's like, "Enough of this shit. I'm going to be in trouble for doing this as it is."
Might as well do some more.
And they bring her up to the Enterprise. McCoy cures her, and then she's thankful and she's grateful, and she's like, "Okay, right, well, don't you want to stay?" And the final scene is about her wanting him to stay, and then they beam her back down, and then the Enterprise just leaves and the credits roll. There's no actual resolution with the counselor at all. There's no like understands what they're saying to him, or like we see, and obviously the implication is that okay, much like Kirk said, she still has the inner blood, so they can still do the thing that way. But it didn't actually convince them that no one had to die, so presumably they're just going to pick someone else to kill as soon as they leave.
Yeah. But I guess at the end of the day, their planet, their call, right? That's how I imagine that's how the Federation Starfleet see it. It's like, it's not really on us to interfere at that point.
Yeah, but that's still how Star Trek works, though. They always convince them the better way by the end, or if they don't convince them by the better way, there'll be a dramatic point where we see them go through with it, and it'll be like a sad moment. Kind of like last episode where we ended on the dark note, and it's like this is still an ending. It's the sad ending. It's the bad ending, but it's still an ending. I felt like this one just didn't really end. It was just, I'll just leave. And there was no like I felt like the very least there should be a speech from Kirk lamenting how sad it'll be that they're going to go through with this, and leave it on a down note like that. But it doesn't even do that. It's just like, well, we're back to the Enterprise. Off we go. It was weird. I don't know.
It is pretty weird, yeah. I can't argue with it. Like I said, this episode does not hold up to scrutiny. It's got some really good ideas and topics and themes,
I
but
think
as soon as you try and look at it, and it just falls apart.
I think for me the moments work really well. Like I say, the creepy faces through the window work, especially when they open the one window, or not open the window because that's space. That's stupid. Well, they think it's space, not actually space, but you know what I mean. The shutter comes
But
up.
presumably they don't open.
Yes,
is the point.
exactly. But they open the shutter to look outside. He's like, here's the view, and it's just these people staring back at them. And I'm like, oh, that was a cool little moment. That was cool and creepy. And it's Spock trying to like argue with the counselor about trying to let them down. Like I enjoyed just him stalling Spock as much as he could and try to be sly about it. Like, and Spock just remaining calm while everyone else was freaking out. That was kind of fun. Like I think the actual up until the ending where it feels like it doesn't end properly, like the actual, how do I put this, like the action within the scene, whether that's like a bit of dialogue, whether that's like a debate, or the mystery of like where are we, or a creepy moment, like the actual content of each scene on its own was pretty entertaining. But like you say, once you stop and think about how any of this works, or think about how it actually makes a point at the end, or lack thereof, it's like, oh, okay, it just falls apart.
Yeah, it's strange. It's really unfortunate because, again, it's another one. I can see a great episode here.
Yeah. Like I say, I wouldn't skip this one. I think it's worth watching. I think there's some fun stuff to be had here and questions raised. And like I say, if I think it says something. It's kind of like how when you watch a TV show where they never swear, and then all of a sudden, like 3 seasons in, they drop an F-bomb, and it's like, whoa! And you hear other shows drop F-bombs all the time, but because you never hear it in this show, it's like, whoa, F-bomb! I think that's kind of like the contraception talk here. Like that conversation wouldn't shock me in just about anything, but but in Star Trek,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
it was like, whoa, okay, we're talking about this. So,
yeah. I will say to the episode's credit, last episode, when we looked at the IMDb, you mentioned how this one was a little bit lower.
It was about a point or close to a point lower.
I don't think this is any worse than the last run. I mean, as an overall episode, when you try and look at it as a whole, maybe because it kind of fails, but I think it's just as enjoyable, if not more so, than some of the last few.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's more enjoyable. I'd say it wasn't the drop I was expecting given that IMDb rating. But hey, so yeah, we're in the 60s for the next little while, just for the record. That's because we were in the 7s before. We were in the low 7s. Now we're in the mid 60s.
Okay. I think this is a better episode than the last one.
That's fair.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't feel particularly strongly about it. I think they're maybe a bit even.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the last one bored me, whereas this one, like you say, individually in the scenes, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
So this has that going for it.
Okay. Alright. Okay, let's go. That's Star Trek. That's Mark of Gideon. We'll be back next week with episode 17, so let us know what you thought of this one. The comments, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Of course, it would behoove us not to mention patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, because you can go over there and you can support us and you can give us some of your monies. But specifically at the $1 tier, you get these Star Trek episodes early, as well as a few other things, and a couple of exclusive shows. And obviously there's more the further you go up. But if you want to support us and keep us going, that's one way of doing it. And of course, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing us on Twitter, that kind of thing, all of that helps too. So you can do any of that. But that is us, so thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and we'll see you next time.